No longer is fear able to reside in the believer. No longer is evil able to unashamedly walk. Zechariah says that the time has been prepared for the promise to come. The capital of Ireland is the historic city of Dublin. And inside that city, I was reading an article on it a while ago, and it was talking about how a lot of people go to Dublin. It's a popular tourist attraction, but the most popular thing visited is actually the zoo, which I thought that was a little bit strange. But the second most popular place visited in Dublin is Trinity College, and it's a real historic college that was established in 1592. And it was established for Protestants. During that time, most everybody was Catholic or Eastern Orthodox, and so they established this Protestant college. And at this Protestant college now, that's very historical, is what they call the Book of Kells. And what this book is it's a Celtic monk translation from 800 A.D. of the four Gospels. It's one of the oldest. It's one of the oldest books we have from this group of people, and it's of the Gospels. And as I was reading this article and it was explaining all this, it talked about how when you go, if you want to go and see this book, you walk in and you don't go directly to it. And how they designed it was you would have to go past all the history of Ireland and Dublin, that you would have to walk past all this Christian history, these newer books and these lesser-known books. And it's kind of a long walk, and you would have to look at all these other things before you finally get to this book of Kells. And so essentially what the people who created this whole experience were thinking was, we need to prepare everyone coming how important this book is. And so this long journey, this long look into history is so that when you do finally get to this famous book, you understand the significance of it. Zacharias also prepared for this psalm that he spoke. 9 months and 8 days without speaking. Because of a lack of faith. See, God will use ordinary people like you and I to live out His plan, but sometimes that takes preparation. Sometimes that takes us being silent. As we kind of look on to verse 72, as a Christ follower, you have to believe Christ's promises. Zechariah continues this prophecy by talking about the old days and covenants. Now, a covenant was not just a promise between two people. It wasn't just a deal that someone made. It especially wasn't a promise a politician made to his constituents. It held, a covenant was solid. It couldn't be broken. And that's what Zechariah is saying here. He's saying God made a covenant with His people, and He's living up to it. He made a covenant with Abraham. See, when God called Abraham out of the desert, He said, Abraham, come with me, follow me. And so Abraham left his family. He left his family, and what Abraham did not know was that salvation history was part of his family. I was listening to some people talk the other night about a show that's been on the Discovery Channel, and a documentary. And it was about Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And the whole show is based on how the three lead back to Abraham. How all three religions lead back to Abraham. And I was listening to some people talk, and they were just saying, this is so neat. They all lead back to Abraham. And essentially what they were saying was, we all worship the same God, so why are we fighting? Now, I'm not getting ready to say this as a conservative Republican at all. I'm saying this as a Christ follower. We don't worship the same God. We don't worship the same God. Now, I don't know how God's going to deal with the Jewish nation because they are special and different. I don't know how He's going to deal with them. But I know how God will deal with the rest of the world. We don't worship the same God. We don't worship a golden cow that we can manipulate. Even though we can trace our lineage back to Abraham along with Islam and Judaism, we don't worship the same God. And I'll show you why we don't worship the same God. Because God's covenant was fulfilled in Jesus' birth. God's covenant was fulfilled in Jesus' birth. If you take that part out of the equation, you don't have the God we worship. Now, some people find that hard to hear, and I've talked with a lot of deeply convicted Christians and had conversations with people who have been part of the faith, and they want to find a way for everyone to be included. But sometimes you're not included if you don't believe the right thing. That doesn't mean we have a special knowledge. That doesn't mean we're any better than anyone else. That just means that we believe in the promise that God lived out in sending His Son to this earth. We don't believe the same God as everyone else. We believe in the God. Now, I don't just get up here and just preach sometimes, but this is the truth. That God sent His Son to live like you and I. And so we don't allow other religions to put themselves with us. Not because we're exclusive. This isn't a sermon saying that we're an exclusive group of people and that we want to keep everyone else out. This is an evangelistic message that says we have got to go and tell the world that without a true understanding of Jesus coming to this earth, there is no hope. That's a message that we can't contain in these walls. That we have to tell the world. God kept His promise. As we see in here that Zacharias kept pointing to Jesus Christ, just as his son was going to do. These last couple verses, Zacharias, he gets to point to his son. Finally, he's done pointing to Jesus and he's done pointing to God, and he points to his son just a little bit, and we get a look into who John would be. We get a look into who John the Baptist would be. He would be the megaphone to point to Jesus. As much as he did, as great as he was, Jesus at one point even says there's no greater man born of a woman than John the Baptist. Of all that, of all John's followers, he continued to point to Jesus, the true light. There's been a lot of talk. I listen a lot to sports talk radios. I'm driving around, and been a lot of talk the last couple of weeks of y'all may never heard of this football player's name's Tim Tebow, and kind of what his career is going to be. You know, he's just it's a weird story. Tim Tebow is it's a strange story. Here you have this one of the most decorated college football players ever. Won a couple national titles, one little thing called the Heisman. And so he comes into the league, and everybody says, well, he kind of throws funny, and he won't be able to play in the NFL. And he gets drafted, kind of goes through his first year, just plays a couple times, and then in his second year, the Broncos aren't doing real good. They're 1-4. Everybody has them out. No way they'll make the playoffs, and so they said, I'll run old Tebow in there. At least we'll sell more tickets. And so all of a sudden, Denver starts winning.